What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the SmoovePlayz podcast. I'm Austin, aka Austin Plays, joined by Dean, aka Mr. Smooth, and it's Sunday, which means we got our Sunday slate here for the week 2 of the NFL season. Dean, how we doing?
I'm great, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm good. I think that these Sunday games, if they, like we said in our Thursday night episode, if week 1 was any indication, we should be in for a treat. There's going to be some good football being played here on Sunday.
Yes, sir. I would hope so. Let's dive right into it.
All right. Well, diving right into it, we got the LA Rams going on the road to face Tennessee. And I mean, biggest thing for this game is going to be Cam Ward, honestly, coming off of a loss. I think that didn't play bad. I think Cam Ward actually played very well, all things considered, and even though they lost the game. Um, for his first game of the NFL of his NFL career, played pretty well. And this Rams team, I mentioned that I was a little worried about them aging. They did end up getting a win in week 1, but I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on this Rams team if I'm being honest. I might be alone on this hill, but I just don't think I'm completely sold on the LA Rams this season.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from because I feel like they're a really, really nice the Rams are like a boat, like a really, really nice boat, but the bottom of it is Flex Seal because their quarterback is 30. How old is Stafford? Like 38?
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, he's up there for sure.
37. So yeah, I mean, I really like this Rams roster, but they are one injury at a key position away from not being that contender that I think they can be.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I agree with you on the Cam Ward stuff too. He at Denver against a top what three defense in the altitude first career game, and he was making throws that I was like, wow, this guy
Yeah.
has elite arm talent. But also you got to remember, good teams win, great teams cover. Tennessee plus 8.5. They covered week 1 in Denver. So coming back home, I'm sure they should have a pretty decent crowd there in Nashville for Cam Ward's first home start. What about I mean, I am definitely higher on the Rams than you are. Um, but I think this might be a tricky spot for them in Tennessee. What do you think?
I think this is definitely a tricky spot. I think I do like Tennessee plus the points. I think that they can, cover again. I think at 5.5, it's still a little high for me. But yeah, the Rams did look good week 1, right? I think Devontae Adams looked good. Puka Nacua looked good. Like they looked good. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that, you can't go into Tennessee and being like, okay, we're playing the Titans, so we can just chill because this Titans team is honestly they're gonna fight. And I think that their defense is better than what people think. I think that they can keep points off the board and make it hard to convert in big yardage situations. So I wouldn't completely count Tennessee out, but I'm probably going to lean LA to win, and but I do like Tennessee to cover the spread.
Yeah, I think LA to win. I like LA to win for sure. But I do like the Titans and the points, like you said. The Tennessee defense definitely underrated. They had Bo Nix. They forced 3 turnovers on Bo Nix last week, a fumble and 2 interceptions. Obviously, Matthew Stafford is a whole different ballgame than Bo Nix. So we'll see how they deal with that, especially just this offense in general, in my opinion. Um, but also, I'm interested to see Cam Ward against this Rams defense. This Rams defense is underrated. They got a young defensive line that is very good, and I guess we'll see if they can get after the young Cam Ward. Um, but I'm excited. I am very excited about this Rams defense. Honestly, I think their defensive line is very good. Their front seven is good.
All right, love to hear it. And moving on, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Cincinnati Bengals, and we touched on it last week, right? The Cincinnati Bengals in week 1 last year threw up a stinker against the New England Patriots, and they ended up winning this game, but did not do it very pretty. And so the Bengals are 1-0, but and the Jags actually looked very good, I think, in week 1. So I mean, this one's a tricky spot. I think this you got Burrow and Lawrence, a rematch of their 2020 national championship. What are your thoughts? Cincinnati's favored by 3.5.
I know Cincinnati's shaky, and they honestly probably should have lost last week if the Browns could make a kick. Um, but I think Cincinnati at home is taking this game. I don't hate the Jacksonville play. Jacksonville did look good, and I actually am definitely higher on them than I was coming into the season just after one performance because I think they got a young good team. I like Liam Cohen. Uh, but I think it's just going to be tough for them to stop this Bengals offense. I know the Bengals had like -7 total yards in the second half against Cleveland, but I think Jacksonville coming up to Cincinnati is definitely different than a AFC North battle. I think Cincinnati might actually cover the 3.5 personally.
Yeah, this one I definitely can see being a shootout, and it's just kind of it being coming down to like who has the ball last. I honestly think that might be what it comes down to. Um, and if it does come down to who has the ball last, I would definitely feel a lot better with the ball in Joe Burrow's hands than I would Trevor Lawrence. So I think I am gonna lean the Bengals, but I'm telling you, I'm right there.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very tough, I think. And I would not be surprised at all. I was strongly considering Jacksonville as my dog of the week, but I think if it, like I said, if it comes down to who has the ball last in a shootout game, I just would feel a whole lot more comfortable with Joe Burrow having the ball in his hands. So I'm gonna end up taking Cincinnati here.
Okay, I agree with you on Jacksonville. I think it's neck. This is a pick 'em in my opinion.
All right, and then our first divisional matchup of week two, we got the Browns and the Ravens, who we just talked about. The Browns, granted at home against a Bengals team that was slow out of the gates, kept it pretty close, and now they're going up against a team that was pretty much perfect in week one up until the last two drives of the game. So
And it's crazy how two not being perfect on two drives will make you lose a game.
well, when you're facing off against guys like Josh Allen, that's just unfortunately the reality of the situation is you
Yeah.
can't afford to give a guy like that opportunities because he's going to make you pay for them. But we're not talking about the Bills and Josh Allen right now. We're talking about the Ravens and the Browns, and this is an 11 and a half point spread for Baltimore. I mean, granted, I think rightfully so, but still, week two, that's a lot of points in the NFL.
That is a lot of points in the NFL, and it's a divisional game. Um, and we do know divisional games 6-2 to the under last week. Just a note, maybe on the total. Um, but I actually think I'm laying the points. I think Baltimore, after the wait, first of all, they put up 40 points last week.
Yeah.
So just say they put up, or whatever. Let's not even get into that. They put up 40 points last week. They're at home and they're coming off a loss. And the Ravens in September, Lamar in September, and the Ravens, they
Yep.
dominate in September. And they're playing the Browns, who are they're just an inferior roster. I know it's AFC North. I guess I could see them covering 11 because of that sole reason. Baltimore's just the way better team, in my opinion.
Yeah, Baltimore is the way better team. Joe Flacco, returning to Baltimore, homecoming game for him. But yeah, I think that this Baltimore Ravens team is still sick to their stomach about losing in week one, and they need something to take their pain and frustration out on. And unfortunately, it's gonna be the Cleveland Browns that are just not on par with what the Baltimore Ravens got going for them. So I definitely could see the Ravens going out there and just absolutely, little broing the Browns in week two.
Yeah, I could see it too. But also this Ravens defense was concerning in week one, at least with their corners, the way they were getting beat.
So yeah, I thought that maybe Baltimore fixed this in the offseason going out and getting like Jair Alexander, but Jair Alexander didn't look good. But the
Right.
Ravens were, I think, the worst team in the NFL last season against the pass. So, I mean, that's something they look to fix, and I don't know if they did. We'll see. Only time will tell. But yeah, Baltimore Ravens, I think, is an easy pick against the Browns.
I agree.
All right. And then we got Bills and Jets. going into MetLife, so I mean, we saw. Look, the Jets looked good. Aaron Glenn, head coaching debut, they lost, but the Jets surprised me a lot because they put up 30 plus against a very, 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 very good Steelers defense.
Yeah, they surprised me as well. And I think the biggest thing that surprised me watching that game was just the Jets on the line of scrimmage. I mean, they were dominating the Steelers to be honest with you. I mean, Brees Hall was averaging over 5 yards a carry. Justin Fields had two rushing touchdowns. Also, Garrett Wilson had almost 100 yards. They were dominating the Steelers defense. And I know that was the first game with a lot of new faces. Maybe not a lot of new faces, but definitely some more key pieces that are newer. But the Jets impressed me a lot. Justin Fields looked great. He actually really did. So I'm interested to see what he does in this divisional matchup. I don't know where to go yet in terms of the spread, but I do think the Bills will win the game.
Yeah, I think I am definitely closer on the Bills winning the game, but as far as the spread goes, it's 6.5, which I actually think is high for a division. It's high for a divisional game, and I do think that you can't look at the Jets and what they did week one and completely take that away because the Steelers are a better defense than the Bills are. So I think I'm leaning towards the Jets to cover the spread and probably the Bills just to win the game. But also let's not forget, right? The Bills. We just talked about how their week one game against the Ravens. I mean, pretty much like not Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but pretty like much as close as you're gonna get in terms of everybody else in the NFL with Justin Fields and Brees Hall. Because Justin Fields and Brees Hall in the backfield together looks scary and was scary in week one. So Baltimore laid the blueprint out and they're gonna, we're gonna see if the Jets can go out and replicate it, or if the Bills, all right, we saw the best in Lamar and Derrick Henry, and now we're seeing kind of a toned down version of it in Justin Fields and Brees Hall. So, a couple of different ways to look at it there, but I think the Bills are definitely the team to take in terms of winning the game, and but expect the Jets to put up points still.
Yeah, just one more note that I realized last week watching that Jets Steelers game is I know obviously Justin Fields was on the Steelers last season, so I watched him, but it's just we haven't watched football in a while. I forgot how fast that guy is. Like he is legit. I think he might be the fastest, just pure top line speed. I think he might be the fastest quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete for sure. Moving on, another divisional game. We got the New England Patriots against the Miami Dolphins, and neither one of these teams impressed at all in week one. What are your expectations on this one? Miami is favored essentially in a pick 'em, but what are your thoughts in Miami?
Well, initially I was like, I'm selling all my stock on the Miami Dolphins forever. But then I just think that New England never plays well in Miami. Also, Tua has never lost to the Patriots in his career. I know this New England team is definitely better than the past, 3 seasons or whatever. But I like this New England team, but I don't know what scares me about them going down to Miami. But for some reason, I think everyone's going to be on the Patriots. Therefore, it's almost a default because they looked so bad last week against Indianapolis. I think it's a default. I got to take Miami. I just have to.
Hey, I mean, you said everybody's on New England, and I'm on New England, even though they're dogs. That's why I'm gonna take them as my dog of the week. I think they're my favorite underdog this week, and so give me the Patriots. And yeah, I am so uninspired as I think a lot of Miami Dolphins fans are with what's going on, just honestly in the locker room and on the roster. Like this Miami Dolphins team is just so uninspiring, and I think that there's a very real possibility that we see Mike McDaniel's, see exit stage right soon, because I think that locker room is kind of just over it at this point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think it it looks like he's lost the locker room. Like they really don't have a leader out there right now.
All right, and moving on, we got the 49ers and the Saints, and I mean the Saints didn't look as bad as what we thought they were going to look in week one. And then the Niners, obviously, biggest story for the Niners as Brock Purdy listed as doubtful. He hasn't been ruled out just yet, but I would be very, very surprised if we see Brock Purdy play. George Kittle's out, Ayuk is out. Dean, San Fran's favored by 3.5 in the Superdome. What are your thoughts?
You know I'm taking the home puppy. The Saints. Listen, I don't want to pick the Saints to win a game all season, but I do believe in getting, we talked about it before the show. I believe in getting teams at the right and wrong time. This is the right time to play the San Francisco 49ers with their injuries. Also, coming in from Seattle, they just played at Seattle, flying all the way to New Orleans, West Coast team in New Orleans. Mac Jones? You think Mac Jones is winning a game in the NFL in 2025? Give me the Saints.
Is that your dog of the week?
That's my dog of the week, Austin. That is my dog of the week.
All right. Hey, look, yeah, we talked about it a little bit before the show, like you said, and I mentioned that I don't completely hate it. I know we talked about it week one, how I don't think I'm gonna be picking the Saints at all this week, but I'm still not picking the Saints, right? I'm not gonna pick the Saints, but if, like you said, if there is a time for the Saints to get a win and catch a team at the bad time, this is probably the worst time that the Niners could ask for to be playing a team like the Saints because this is a or I guess the best time would this would be the best time for the Niners to play a team like the Saints because they're so injury ridden. But man, this game I would not be shocked at all if the Saints go out there and upset the Niners and we see another home puppy walk out with a W. So yeah, I'm still taking the Niners, but not surprised at all. I understand why you're leaning on the Saints this week. And I commend you for it because it couldn't be me.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend.
All right. Moving on, we got a divisional game going down to Big D. We got the New York Giants playing against the Dallas Cowboys. And look, at this point, I'm so sold on Russell Wilson. Like, Russell Wilson, this is what his third team now outside of Seattle, where he has just looked like a completely unproductive quarterback and like is not a guy that I want leading my offense.
Yeah, definitely, definitely not, especially since he's 36 now, too. So that just adds on to the reasons you don't want him leading your team. So that brings up the question, how many weeks until we see Drew Lock
I mean,
or
oh,
Jameis or
I
Jameis Winston,
I think
honestly?
that there's too much money I think invested into Russell Wilson right now to where we see a change any sooner than week 5. Unfortunately for the Giants. they're already calling for Jackson Dart even to get some playing time. So I don't think that it's that far fetched. If the Giants play against this Dallas team with a defense that is subpar, in my opinion, and throw up another stinker, I think that those calls for a change is only going to get louder, and Brian Dable could very easily see his way out the door before the season even ends. I think if you're Brian Dable, you got to kind of just throw caution to the wind and take a chance at if this game is a blowout, which I think it very well could be, and why I think I'm scared to say lock of the week, but I very leaning on the Dallas Cowboys in this game. Um, yeah, if they get smoked by Dallas, a divisional game, I think it's fair to say that Brian Dable is already on his way out the door.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's already on his way out, even if they win this game. I think they don't want him anymore in New York. But uh, I do think, in my opinion, now of course we're just two people talking about football. I'm not an NFL coach or anything, but I think if I was Brian Dable and I was in his shoes and I'm trying to save my job, yeah, everyone wants Drew Lock. Jameis Winston definitely makes them the best team, best chance at winning. I think
Yeah.
maybe not the best chance of winning, let's just say the best product on the field because that would make their offense way more productive.
Hmm.
And honestly, if their offense is good, like if they're putting up 25 points and losing, I don't think Giants fans would be that upset. But it's the fact that they're losing 21-6 and they can't even push the ball downfield or anything.
Yeah.
Also, Malik Neighbors is already infuriated. He was in week one. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, no, well, trust me, I know about Malik Neighbors. He's not afraid to share his opinion and let you know if he's unhappy. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but
Yeah.
he's gonna speak his mind and make sure that he's heard, and that's why I think that Russell Wilson, it's time to move on. I like
I don't know why they signed him in the first place. I thought they would start Jameis and have Locke as
that's what I
just,
thought too, but neither here nor there. We got another divisional game we got to talk about with the Chicago Bears going and playing the Detroit Lions. And both these teams starting off 0-1. I mentioned last week how Jared Goff and his Lions struggle to play in outdoor stadiums. They did struggle, granted, it was their first game with a new OC and a new DC. So I'm not completely holding that against the Detroit Lions, but I'm looking for a bounce back game here in Detroit. And Detroit is favored by basically a touchdown. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think Detroit, I think I'm definitely taking Detroit to win the game. I could definitely get on Chicago +6, but at the same time, I could honestly see Detroit going out there and spanking Chicago. Ben Johnson, first game back. Um, I do have to say congrats to the Chicago Bears, opening drive champions of the season after their opening drive Monday night against Minnesota.
And then
And
completely
but
nowhere to be found after that.
the rest of the game. Um, I think my pick is definitely Detroit. And honestly, screw it. Like it's the Bears, bro. They can't get anything good. 6.5. I'll take the Lions to cover.
All right. Um, yeah, I'm gonna be taking the Lions. I think that this is yeah. Look, Detroit is also as now more recently is turned into a pretty tough environment as well. And a divisional game, they're gonna play hard, and Dan Campbell's gonna have these guys playing with their heart on their sleeve, ready to run through a brick wall. The Bears outside, like you said, outside of that opening drive, did the Bears looked horrible, and Caleb Williams looked horrible. I think I don't know what happened after the first, two, three drives of the game for Chicago, but it literally looked like they just were lost and didn't know what they were doing. So who knows? Maybe another week under Ben Johnson, they can figure it out. But I think I'm gonna take Detroit to win this one at home.
I agree. And also, last time these teams played in Detroit, it was that timeout debacle whenever the clock just ran out
Hmm.
on Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, new head coach.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Hopefully
we
that
don't
doesn't
see
happen.
more of the same. Hopefully that problem gets fixed. Moving on, we got the Seattle Seahawks playing your Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, you know where I'm going. Steelers opening home game. I'm definitely taking them to cover the 2.5. Also, though, not just because I'm a Steeler fan, even though I guess that could be my only reasoning, but I'm worried about the Seattle interior offensive line is not very good, just their offensive line in general. I'm worried about against the Steelers front. I think
Hmm.
another week with the Steelers gelling together on that defensive side of the ball. Deshaun Elliott did get injured, and I think he's one of the most underrated safeties in the league. But we did sign a guy, Jabril Peppers is in town in Pittsburgh. So uh, I'm excited to see Rodgers in his first home game. I think it's just a tough spot for Seattle coming all the way to Pittsburgh against a team that has a lot of momentum after their week one win at home.
Yeah, I think momentum is a very real thing in sports, and that's why I'm also going to be taking the Steelers to cover 2.5 against Seattle. Tough spot for Seattle going cross country. Um, but I will say, like this Steelers team, you mentioned the offensive line. They have a significant advantage, in my opinion, on the defensive front. And TJ Watt, I think, is gonna, rain hell on Sam Darnold. And you mentioned them coming off a big win against the Jets in week one. Momentum, they're trying to roll that over into this week, and they're gonna have to if they're gonna win this game. And I think they're going to be able to get the job done. So I'm taking the Steelers, and I think they win this one by at least a field goal.
I agree.
Moving on, we got the Denver Broncos and the Colts, and the Colts. I mean, the biggest shock of I think, of Week One for some people would probably be Daniel Jones looking like an MVP in a week. I mean, he played he played about as good as you could in Week One.
Yeah, no, he did. He had two rushing touchdowns. The Colts offense was just efficient. I mean, they were moving the ball up and down the field. And then again, though, they were playing a team with their head coach being talked about like fired before the season starts with Miami. So we'll
Yeah.
see how Miami goes on. But the Colts did look good week one.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is they are playing Denver, so a top five defense in the NFL. It's going to be a big test for Daniel Jones and this Indianapolis offense. But this is also a big test for Denver and their offense. I think that their offense was very inefficient and it looked very, very shaky
Yeah.
for a lot of the game. So I think that Bo Nix needs to cut down on the turnovers more than anything, and just not make get his defense onto the field in a tough predicament. So if he can take care of the ball, I think that Denver's gonna have no issues winning this game. And so that being said, I think Denver. I'm gonna go ahead and lock in Denver as my lock of the week.
Denver's the lock of the week. Okay. I like that. I wasn't expecting you to say that. I think I'm actually going completely against your lock, and I think the Colts are winning this game. And the reason I say that is because not just because how they looked last week, I was definitely higher on this Colts team than the average person before the season. And I just think Denver coming to Indy, Indy's got an underrated defense. And like you said, I think they can force Bo Nix into some mistakes. And I think that the weakest part of this Denver defense probably would be their run defense. So the fact that Indianapolis leans on that, I think Jonathan Taylor could have a big game. And I like the Colts to win this one.
All right.
Colts start
Well,
out 2-0, Austin. Who would have
hey,
thought that?
I mean, you know, I I don't I think AR unfortunately AR going down might have been the best thing that could have happened for Indianapolis Colts fans.
In terms of their winning this season, yes, I agree with that.
Moving on, we got the Carolina Panthers playing against the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a Arizona Cardinals team that looked like in week one they finally put it all together and are playing up to their potential. And their defense, I think, was the biggest surprise. Their defense was stout in week one, and then Carolina clearly couldn't carry momentum from last year into week one. And so, I mean, I got to ask you, how long do you think it is until Bryce Young, they just, they're done with Bryce Young?
I don't I don't know the answer to that honestly. I think they have to let him play. Like you just have to I guess if they're like 0 and 10 or something crazy like that, but like what's the alternative? Andy Dalton? Like there's really like you just let Bryce Young play and you let things go as they go. You got oh, this is the matchup of the two shortest quarterbacks in the league, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, we got Kyler and Bryce Young. I don't know. I don't know if that's. I think they're going to stick with Bryce Young. I think it. I mean, at least for this season. Like, what is the alternative? Really, nothing.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I like Arizona in this game. I agree with you. I like their defense. It's especially like you got a Will Johnson, who we think was what a top
Yeah, I
15,
mean,
top 20
Will
prospect.
Johnson going into the draft was probably the number one corner on the board, but people were scared about injury problems, and he was saying in the offseason that he was fine.
Yeah.
So Arizona takes a shot, and I think probably they're probably got the biggest steal of the draft and a guy that is probably going to be playing for a defensive rookie of the year. And I could really see being like a future defensive player of the year in the NFL.
Yeah, and then you already got Buda Baker back there, so like their secondary is good. And Arizona, I actually do think I'd like Carolina +6. I think I know that might sound crazy, but I think a bounce back spot for them is might be due. But I think Arizona wins the game.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna be taking Arizona as well. Arizona is definitely winning this game. And then that's gonna bring us to our final game of this Sunday slate. A game that honestly I'm surprised that isn't a Sunday night matchup or a Monday night matchup. It's literally the Super Bowl last year. We got the Philadelphia Eagles going into Arrowhead to play the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, going in Arrowhead, and are the Chiefs going to start out 0-2? That's the question.
I mean,
What do
you brought it up last week, and it's a very, very real possibility.
It is a real possibility. I think my favorite play from this game is the over, honestly, because that Chiefs defense did not look good against the Chargers. And I don't think this Philadelphia defense is as good as people, definitely not as good as last season. I'm gonna just say that. So I think the Chiefs can score. So I think my favorite play is the over. I guess if I have to pick if I have to pick a side, it would I mean, you're giving me Patrick Mahomes as I know it's a pick 'em basically, but if you're gonna give me him as a home underdog, I think honestly, my pick all depends on if Xavier Worthy plays. If he gets ruled out, I'm going with Philly. If he plays, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that Xavier Worthy being in or out definitely plays a factor. My biggest thing, honestly, for this one, and I know this isn't a primetime game, we don't usually do this, but the biggest thing for Philly is going to be they threw to AJ Brown once last game, and it was the fourth quarter. He had one catch for 8 yards. Get the ball outside. That is how you're going to beat the Chiefs. You have to get the ball outside. I talked about it last week between the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chargers needed to get away from the run a little bit and expose the outside of this Chiefs defense. And it is the exact same thing for Philly. I don't care if you have Saquon Barkley. I don't care if Jalen Hurts is your quarterback and he can move. Like this Chiefs front seven is good, and their weakness is on the outside. You have to take advantage of that where you have an advantage in AJ Brown, in Devonta Smith. Like if the game plan for the Eagles cannot be what it was for them in week one if they're going to win this game. And so if they do that, I think the Eagles definitely win this game. And if, like you said, if Xavier Worthy is out for the Chiefs, definitely favors the Eagles. But man, it's hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes, but I am going to lean, I think, more towards the Eagles in this one just because I think they have the matchup. Again, that's because I know what they need to do to win, and I don't know if they're going to do it. So it's tough. I honestly give me the Chiefs, give me Pat Mahomes at home, man. Give me Patrick Mahomes at home. I don't even care. Like I think the Eagles are going to try and still run the ball with Saquon, and it's just not going to work out as well as they want, and it's going to be too late before they start chucking it up to AJ Brown and Devonta Smith.
Yeah, no, I do think my pick is all depending on Xavier Worthy, honestly. But I agree with everything you said.
All right. Well, that covers all of our Sunday slate games minus our Sunday night game, which we got coming up here in a minute. So stay tuned for that one. We got the Falcons and the Vikings. We'll make sure to put that up pretty much about an hour roughly before kickoff. So make sure you guys are ready for that one. And Dean, you got anything else before we wrap this episode up?
I got nothing else, my friend.
All right, well, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Let us know who your picks are down in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Peace.